Hey, and welcome to another week of Libertarians at Large. My name is Eric Rotsep, and this is where we discuss the week in news and express a libertarian point of view of the goings-on in our nation and abroad. We welcome your comments, your questions in the chat box, so feel free to comment regularly. We may share your comment on the air. This week, I'm joined with my fellow at-large members, Laura Ebke and Valerie Sarawak, and extra special guest, blast from the past, Dan the Man Fishman. How are you doing? Oh, Dan, you're muted. Dan, you're muted.
I hope that lip reading didn't come through. I've missed you guys. It's so awesome to be on again with you guys. And I just want to express my appreciation for the three of you, the hard work that you guys are doing, and the exemplary example that you set for the Liberty world. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I know it's my pleasure to have you back on.
Yeah, thank you for being on our very first show also, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And I was happy to do it. And it seems like Richard just isn't showing up, huh?
Yeah, he works like 13 hours a day.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then Josh Smith doesn't join us either because he's got the following of Liberty's kids. I mean, he's Valerie. He's taken on your role of having children to expand the Liberty movement.
Yeah,
I mean,
he can keep that title. I'm not having anymore.
I was going to say, if I can quote Valerie, breed them for freedom.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I love this. Casey Daly says that Dan, you're muted is going to be the name of your biography.
You know, it's funny because I do a fair bit of chats with Casey. She's the people who don't know, Casey was the originator of the Let Her Speak campaign, and she knows more about HubSpot than anybody in the world. And so like how to filter data, use digital fingerprints and stuff like that. So I'm in a lot of digital meetings with her, but I do always try to, sort of mute myself when I start typing and stuff like that, because I got that Thunderball keyboard going on. And so all the time I'm muted.
There you go. There's your autobiography. Beautiful jacketed book. Dan, you're muted. There isn't a word in the entire thing until you get to the last page. Oh, crap.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of blank pages. That's a great idea. I love that.
All blank until you get to the end and it says, "Oh crap."
That's a really good idea. It's really easy to publish yourself now.
I wonder if you could sell that. I mean, go through like the Amazon self-publishing thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh God, I bet you could sell a ton because the name of the book is just
It tells you what's in it.
Yeah.
There's I don't know if you guys remember, but a while back, somebody brought a book and gave it to Sam Goldstein at one of the LNC meetings. That was How to Win an Argument with a Libertarian. And it was entirely blank on the inside.
Oh.
That's amazing. And
So,
true.
I am drinking, I just have to say, the Sweet Baby Jesus peanut butter chocolate porter. This thing is phenomenal. I'm very excited about it.
So I have a local brew, Empyrean Ale. It's pitched blue and black. It's called pitched blue, but it's a black and blueberry ale.
Ooh, I like
and
blueberries in all things.
Very good. Yes.
Almost all things.
Yeah. It's very good.
White wine with an ice cube in it.
Nice.
I did not get the memo, and I am drinking agua.
Well, as the moderator, we need you to stay sober because the rest of us are going to lose it pretty soon.
Tensions are a little high,
I'm hoping that you brought your little censor button so that when I start dropping the F-bombs.
There you go. That is what I have been missing the entire time. Now it makes sense.
Well, it's funny. I do have to say, so my last boss, or 2 bosses ago, bought this because he said, "You say yes to everything, Dan." And so every meeting, I want you to press it and go, "No." That's my no.
Oh, that's great. That is absolutely great. It's a great pause.
Well, the problem with it is that this is back when I was doing software engineering, and people knew that, like, if they went through the project manager, they wouldn't get their stuff done. But they also knew that I had a really hard time saying no. And so, like, they would come through and say, Dan, I just need this little feature. It's not going to take you very long. And I hate to disappoint people. And so I'd be like, oh, well, let me see what I can do. So eventually they sat somebody in the cube opposite me. And that person's entire job was to stop anybody else who wasn't supposed to be in the room from coming and talking to me. But it worked.
Yeah.
I see Chase. Hey, Chase. All right. So what crazy stories? Well, so I have to start off and say, I'm assuming the big thing that we want to talk about is Juneteenth coming up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I grew up in Galveston, Texas, which is the origins of Juneteenth, where it originally started from. And we celebrated it like my entire life, like going back to, like, I vividly remember the third grade celebration of Juneteenth. And the funny thing about it is that, for a kid, you're always excited about the ambiguity of it. You're like, Juneteenth, why don't we know what day it's going to be on? And it didn't used to always be on June 19th. It was someday, like it was a Saturday in the end of June or something like that. But now it's sort of settled on June 19th. And I guess it just became a federal holiday today, right?
It did.
See that?
Oh.
So that's pretty exciting because I think that it means all federal employees, which means my wife won't have to work tomorrow.
It's also a state holiday in Nebraska as of today. The governor signed a which is somewhat surprising in Nebraska.
It is.
Yeah.
But that was the thing that I liked about it the most was that, the ambiguity of the name and the date ties into what the real issue was. And so for people who don't know, when slavery was officially abolished, obviously the southern states didn't necessarily tell everybody right away. And so it's not clear what, and there's no Facebook and there's no, instant communication. Telegraph lines only run between the main cities. And so getting the word out that slavery was over took a lot of time. And so that's why it's called Juneteenth, to recognize this broad thing. And then the other thing that you can't sell short is that there were certainly some unscrupulous people who didn't tell their slaves that they were freed and tried to get in one more. And actually, one of my favorite Doonesbury episodes, and I think everybody should be required, well, maybe not required, but everybody should read the early Doonesbury, is one where Nate Harris or Zonker Harris is talking about his ancient relative Nate, who lived in Massachusetts. And then it cuts over to him and he goes over to his friend's farm and he sees his friend's slave, Sammy. He says, Sammy, what are you doing here? Haven't you heard about the revolution? Slavery's over. And Sammy says, not here in Virginia. He says, Sammy, we're in Massachusetts. And he goes, oh, come on. So then he gets set free. And, Juneteenth is that sort of thing. But it's a good thing, too, because there is still, this unbelievable systemic racism that's been going on for such a long time. And people would like to pretend that it hasn't happened, or they like to pretend that it ended in 1870. And you can look back, like I was talking with a friend of mine the other day about redlining. A lot of people don't know what redlining is, but redlining was a practice that essentially denied Black families loans so that they couldn't move into white neighborhoods. And that's been going on very recently. And there are all these other things we can look at. There's the famous study that Harvard did where if you apply for a job with the exact same resume, but a white name and a Black name, the white name gets the interview and the Black name doesn't. Exact same resume, same street address, stuff like that. And all these other things that are going on there. And, we have to acknowledge that sort of thing. And Juneteenth is a great way for us to talk about race issues that sometimes people might be a little bit uncomfortable with. So I'm very excited for Juneteenth. I'm very excited for the celebration. I feel a little plug. People for Liberty is doing a broadcast. Be sure to tune in. John Mons, Larry Sharp. We have a slam poetry introduction. Armed Atlas. I don't know if people, a lot of people know him as African-American gun instructor based out of Texas who talks a lot about Second Amendment issues, and other guests as well. So please tune in.
That's awesome. And you were talking about how systemic racism has existed, and a lot of people think that it ended in the 1870s.
Yeah.
But one of the major things that was supposed to come out of Juneteenth, and one of the things that a lot of African Americans in this country were promised Special Field Order Number 15,
Yes.
which was issued by William Tecumseh Sherman for 40 acres and a mule. And this was basically to get individuals kickstarted into the economic system.
And it's such a perfectly designed program because it doesn't punish anybody. It doesn't take anything away from anybody. The Army has all of these mules, and they said the people who benefited from slavery, we're going to carve up their plantations and give people 40 acres out of that. So it's a perfectly targeted program. It's
and also remember, at this time in the United States, there was a heck of a lot of territory that was still completely owned by the government, and
There's there is I think we talked about this before, but there's this thing called the frontier thesis, which is that the idea that America is different from every other country is because if you didn't like what was happening in the country, you could move 50 miles to the west and you are now outside of the United States. And for sure, there's this wilderness. I happened to be driving through Laura's state the other day, and there's still plenty of room in Nebraska.
Yes, there is.
We're
trying to bring people here.
But it's one of those things that absolutely that sort of level of giving land, property that the country owns doesn't hurt anybody.
Right.
And that's a good idea in terms of, I think, a good idea in terms of reparations. For people who aren't familiar with Larry Sharp's Libertarian Reparations Plan, he's going to explain it on the broadcast, but it's also on his website, and I'm just going to plug it, sharpway.com. Read it. It's a scholarly work, and it's a beautiful example of how reparations could be done in a way that increases generational wealth in African Americans, encourages business ownership, and doesn't make the classic mistake of dropping a pile of cash on somebody. Because study after study has shown with lottery winners, exactly, Eric, you're there with it. And Dave Chappelle did a wonderful sketch about that as well.
But and Daniel makes mention of the whole redlining issue, and we started talking about that. But there's all sorts of issues at the state and city level. Not just formal redlining or even informal redlining, but things like we have in Nebraska, we have something called TIF, the tax increment financing something or other. Basically, you get it if you purchase property in a blighted area, then you get a tax break on the property taxes. But the problem with that is that the cities have to declare an area blighted, and then you've got zoning issues. And so one of the senators, couple of the senators from North Omaha, which is a predominantly minority area of Omaha, complained because zoning issues have made it impossible for there to be these TIF programs that would then allow businesses to grow in those areas. And so those areas are just destined to continue to deteriorate and be a tough place for people to kind of revive their communities, if you will. So there's all sorts of things, and just some of it is intentional, some of it isn't, some of it is just government getting in the way,
right.
and trying to zone things to make a nice clean city or whatever, and it messes things up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the busing right from the New York City to the shore, that whole thing. Dan, you probably can help me out with what I'm talking about. How they didn't let the people who lived in New York City get on the buses to go to the Jersey Shore.
Right. And there's actually there's a lot of examples of that, about how government has controlled public transportation specifically to enforce segregation. And the people going to the Jersey Shore is a great example of that. Essentially, the people down on the shore said, well, we just don't want anybody coming here from the inner city. And so we're going to block all of those things. If anybody's been to Pittsburgh,
recently,
yeah. And so Pittsburgh, did you guys have a meeting there?
Eric and I were at the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania convention.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things you probably noticed is that there isn't good public transportation in Pittsburgh, and the traffic can get terrible, especially down by the confluence. That is by design. Specifically, the wealthy people in Pittsburgh said they had an opportunity to put in a train, a light rail system, and they specifically stopped it from happening because they're like, oh, we prefer people stay in their own neighborhoods. And that's, one of the most important lessons too of Juneteenth is almost everything that we can look at. When I said earlier, systemic racism, it is the government being involved in it. Rosa Parks not being able to sit where she wants on the bus. That was what the law was. Segregation at the lunch counters, that was the law. That you didn't have the option to do these other things. And so everything we look at, right, we talk about Jim Crow laws. Not Jim Crow, we say Jim Crow laws because it was the government behind all of these things. And it was the system. And that's where things have been breaking, is that there is a systemic difference between, there's a difference between having systemic racism, but then trying to make individual people responsible. And that's where people go wrong. And I'm parroting Larry here, so I don't want to take credit for his intellectual ideas, but you can't address systemic racism by blaming individual people.
Well, Kara or Kara, I don't know which it is, has a great comment there, Eric, about Dan.
Oh, we're going to show that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
show it.
So
now, I don't know for sure, but I would guess that it's Kara Swoboda.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
She was an activist in Massachusetts, and a hard worker. And we disagreed on a few things. But hey, Kara, thanks so much for watching the show. You should be watching the show all the time. You guys are awesome.
But we're talking about a lot of laws that negatively impact along racial lines. North Carolina has actually one of the most interesting property inheritance laws. I was trying to find the exact name of it, and for the life of me right now, the name of the law actually escapes me. So if any of our viewers know it, if an individual passes away and does not have a will, which is a large proportion of the minority community, what happens is that the property goes into holding, and now the family has to basically just kind of come in and take it. However, what can also happen, and has happened in many, many different situations, is that somebody can buy the right to that property.
Wow.
And now, instead of taking one share of the property, they can actually come in and claim the entire property because it hasn't been properly moved from one individual to another, or it hasn't been split among all the family members. So this is actually how a large portion, I mean, if you watch, like even the movie The Patriot, right? You had huge African-American communities on the beaches of North and South Carolina, up and down the coast.
Yeah.
But now, if you go up and down the coast, yes, there are still African-American communities, but a lot of them have been replaced with beach resorts and all of that. And a lot of the developing companies actually swindled the land out from under African-American families and built their resorts that way. So they got the land pennies on the dollar and completely stole everything.
That's one of the other things in Larry's reparation plan, the Libertarian reparation plan, is that for descendants of American slaves, for 23 years, absolutely no tax on transferring property, whether estate tax or wealth or anything else, because that's one of the things that has really hurt the African American community, is being denied this generational wealth, because all along, whenever wealth was built up, you had and let's not, right, today is the 100th anniversary of Tulsa.
Yep.
So when African Americans built up wealth, it was invariably taken away from them and done by the government. The famous picture of Tulsa is with American soldiers in there, because Tulsa was largely populated by African-American veterans who come back from World War I and use the money that they'd earned to invest wisely in their community. And obviously no sheriff was going to go into there with all these veterans. So they had to send the army in to confiscate the guns. And then that allows, you know, again, I'm sort of replaying for those of you who have watched Watchmen on HBO, the Tulsa riots. But, you know, it not talking about it doesn't make it any better.
Right. I mean, Tulsa was absolutely deplorable. There are many cases of
Tulsa,
smaller instances that are virtually identical around the country.
Yep.
It's bad.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things that, you know, I always go back to Dr. King's quote, right? The arc of justice is, the arc of history is long, but it tends towards justice. And we're getting better.
Yeah.
Just got to all keep pulling on it.
Yeah.
So what else is going on?
I mean, for me, my big other thing, so I got Juneteenth coming up. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to New York City Pride, which I'm very excited about. I have, you know, I did Boston Pride, and we were talking about this earlier. Boston Pride is kind of a constrained, it's what you would expect Boston to do for Pride. It's a little,
everyone's wearing a Celtics jersey and yelling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Nobody raises their voice. It's a lot of, you know, let's march in order and that sort of thing. But I've never been to New York City, and I hear that it's a great Pride. So I'm excited to be there. I'm going to be at the Libertarian Party of New York City's Pride booth. We still need a couple volunteers. So if people are in the area, please come on down. And, you know, if you've never been to a Pride event somewhere in the country, we're about halfway through the month. Well, maybe a little bit more, but you know, this is our great reopening, and Pride has always been a wonderful and joyous celebration. So I recommend people get out there and see what's happening at Pride and see happy people living their lives, because, you know, for a lot of us, we've sort of been given the life back that we didn't have for such a long time, for a year of being locked up. Celebrate it.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, that's a really great point. I mean, you know, have next week, I won't be here because on Wednesday night, I'm going to a Chicago concert, and on Thursday night, I'm going to a Styx concert.
Nice.
It's like back-to-back crazy concert things, but it's crazy that, you know, it's been so long that I went to Disney on Ice with my granddaughter a couple of weeks ago, and it was very exciting. Just being out and in, you know, in places again. So it wasn't quite normal yet, but it's getting close.
Gotcha.
I'll be at Manchester Pride on Saturday, helping Outright table their event.
Very nice.
Their table.
Yeah.
Rich Clark asks what kind of beer I'm drinking, so I will repeat from earlier. I am drinking Empyrean Brewing. It's based in Lincoln or Omaha. They have places in both, and it is called Pitched Blue. It's a black and blueberry ale.
Yeah.
So,
and I see a comment from YouTube talking about Pittsburgh not having public transportation. There is busing in Pittsburgh, but there was a plan to put in a light rail, and that was defeated.
Yeah, Raleigh-Durham wanted to put in a light rail system, and when we saw the price tag, the voters decided no, and rightfully so, because my gosh, it would have been actually one of the most expensive light rail projects in the country ever.
Yeah.
But that's one of the problems, isn't it? Because I mean, it sounds great having a light rail system and all that, but the only way to get it done, it would seem, is through public funding.
Yeah.
And people don't want to pay for it, and you know, the question is whether they should. You know, it's tricky. Now, Dan's got a different opinion here.
Well, I was just going to say there's you know, an idea now. I want to be careful about giving these to you guys because it's more sort of a Shelbyville idea. Monorail.
So actually, no, but the fact that it has become a public boondoggle has actually artificially inflated the price. So if you look at the average light rail project that's going around the country right now, it's costing in excess of $200 million a mile. And that includes the track, the station building, and the trains that run on it.
And I'm not going to interrupt you too long. It always takes up space on the roads, which causes businesses to lose business and causes problems with the traffic.
Well, light rail is independent of roads, whereas trolley or streetcar actually runs on the streets.
The one in Phoenix is called the light rail, and it goes on the road.
So the light rail, so there's two parts to the Phoenix light rail system. Part of it's actually a trolley system, and part of it's actually a light rail system. Phoenix calls things that are actually not light rail, because it's Phoenix is Phoenix. Phoenix is unusual unto itself.
Terrible there.
Right. Yeah. Phoenix actually has a ballerina bar that lights up, and they call that the light rail. So sorry. I'll be here all week.
But if you go back to 1990, light rail construction ran under $20 million a mile. If you adjust for inflation, it should not be anywhere near $200 million. The only reason for it is the fact that governments have gotten huge funding from the federal government, and they know that these people don't know what they're spending money on, and they can artificially inflate things to ludicrous levels and still make their money, and everyone would still line up to buy it. And it's absolutely ridiculous because...
Stupid.
And I can't blame the companies. I'm not blaming the companies. I'm blaming the system that just pours money indiscriminately into this.
Right. I mean, it's just I don't blame the companies except in the spaces where they lobby so that they get a monopoly. So that's why, we can't make this investment unless, you guarantee the whole system to us. One of the interesting things in Massachusetts is that companies bid to operate the light rail there, the commuter rail. And so, believe it or not, there's a French company that's operating the commuter rail for the next 15 years. But that's not the worst way to do it. The train and the track and stuff exists, but it becomes at least a little bit more competitive. Now, you can argue that you don't want somebody cutting cost on the train all the time, but if people don't ride the train, then these people aren't going to make any money. And so they have a benefit. They want to deliver the best service they can. I think that's a little bit better than when the city itself runs the train and everybody who works for the train is a public employee, et cetera, et cetera.
And actually, Rich brings up a great point that this isn't just to light rail. It's also high-speed rail that is brought into this. And again, billions of dollars get wasted into this that really don't need to get wasted at all. It's bad. And it's painful for me to say because I'm a train lover. I love trains. And I wish, trains could be everywhere. And to say that trains are just not economical under the current economic conditions because government has hyperinflated the cost is painful for me to say.
Yeah, but you're exactly right, is that it's only because of that inflation, because trains in a natural state, a train is a much cheaper method of locomotion, if you'll forgive the pun, getting things from point A to point B. But you are going to, it's going to be very interesting as, there's a huge crisis coming up, not crisis, but trucking's going away. All the over-the-road jobs, 99% of the over-the-road jobs are going to be gone in 15 years. Sure. And there's 3.3 million truckers. And so nobody's going to be thinking about train for transportation anymore because trucking is going to be so incredibly cheap. And maybe that will open trains up again for, so when I moved here, I had to go back and forth to Massachusetts several times. And I think I mentioned this on one of the last shows but pro tip for everybody, if you move, don't leave your spouse behind to pack the house. That's just a bad idea. Valerie probably knows some of that. So I would go back and help my wife pack on the weekends, and I would take the train back and forth. And it's a great way to travel. It was just as long as driving, but I could sit there. I had power. I could stretch out. I had the seats to myself. Train travel is delightful. but it's it's gone for a variety of different reasons. And I will say it's very stupid that the train price is only $20 cheaper than the flight price between DC and Boston.
Yeah.
But the train does drop you off downtown. So
Yeah.
And since I've had a beer, have had some beer. There. Cheers.
cheers. Eric's moderating.
I love this. Okay, new rule. Laura's got to have beer every episode.
You mentioned locomotion.
Mhm.
Okay, who sang? Who did the song in 1974?
Everybody's doing a brand new
Okay.
Come on, baby.
I think we are going off the rails.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
terrible. I have no idea who sings the locomotion, but I thought it was older than 1974.
Well, that was 74 is when I remember it. I was in middle school in 1962. I think Little Eva or somebody like that. But Grand Funk did it in
Funk Railroad makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Grand Funk, another Simpsons reference. Everyone loves Grand Funk.
So it looks like
Yep.
it is a certain time.
Woo!
Yes.
This is awesome. I've never been on this side of the chair.
Since the last time you were here, we no longer do the New York Times news quiz.
Oh.
We now do Washington Weekly news quiz because the New York Times news quiz got a little
Preachy.
well, can we say
artsy.
entertainment based.
Too much pop culture.
Yeah.
And they're all about the Islanders right now, so screw those guys.
Hey. Don't you be knocking my Islanders here,
If Tom Mann's on here.
I just want to note Elizabeth Stump had it correct. It was Grand Funk.
There you go.
Elizabeth.
See, that's what you were doing. You were prepping everyone for the quiz portion of the show.
That's right.
I love it.
What a segue. All right, I'm ready, baby.
Okay. Question number 1. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin met face-to-face on the final day of the President Biden's trip abroad. Where did the two meet? Brussels, Belgium, Helsinki, Finland, or Geneva, Switzerland?
I think it's Geneva, but I'm not sure.
That was my first thought too.
It is Geneva.
All right, I'm going to throw in a second question. Which country produces more chocolate, Belgium or Switzerland?
Switzerland.
The answer no. Belgium is the #1 producer of chocolate in all of
Are
Europe.
they?
Yeah.
They make all that Swiss chocolate, right?
Well, I mean, obviously, Toblerone, they crank out a lot of chocolate in Switzerland, but Belgium, I guess, does Godiva and a bunch of other chocolates. And so,
Okay, and I'm going to be a little partial here because it's my heritage, but I say without a doubt that Estonian chocolate is the best chocolate. No, it's the best chocolate. And if you ever, you have to order it from Calais. You have to order it from Canada because the United States has decided that we're so good that we can't compete against Hershey. And so Calais chocolate is not available in the United States. But if you ever get your hands on some Calais chocolate, you'll see what I'm talking about, and that Estonian chocolate is the best.
all right. Challenge thrown down.
By Calais chocolate.
Daniel May says that there were other people singing Locomotion too. It must be one of those things that resurfaces about
I
every
think there were
10
a
or
lot of
15
others,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm
But
stuck
you
in
didn't
time.
specify the year.
Well, I did. It's 1974, right?
Right.
I was in middle school, and it's stuck in my mind. You know,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Kylie Minogue didn't sing in 1974. Ooh,
different generation. Yeah.
So this is a basic true or false question.
All right, we got a 40% chance of getting it right.
Hey. True or false? The European Union has decided to lift restrictions on visitors coming from the United States.
True.
True, but yeah, it doesn't specify what restrictions. So yeah.
Yeah. They haven't decided on
Not
how
all restrictions. You still can't bring your guns.
No, you can't bring your guns. Actually, there's a lot of pets that are still completely barred. Like you can't bring your dog or cat or anything like that. But let's be honest. All of these travel restrictions, they sound like a good idea, but in reality, they are the worst things ever. I mean, we're libertarians, so even to us, they sound disgusting. But, you know, there's a lot of people that go, oh, it sounds wonderful. Yay. But it's horrible. This has impacted trade. This has impacted the global economy. This has impacted a lot of different things. I mean, you just look at ITER in the Italian Alps, the particle accelerator that has been making all sorts of scientific breakthroughs. The American scientists have actually been denied access to this. So, yeah, no, horrible. Anti-science, anti-economy, anti-everything. Should have never happened.
Yeah. I mean, speaking as an American, I traveled through Europe in the mid-'80s. Excellent country. Excellent country. Sorry, that's my joke.
Europe.
Oh, no, it actually just told me that now you can buy Kalev chocolate on Amazon. There you go.
Oh my gosh, that's what I'm going to do when I get off this call. Yeah, and
Marilyn.
I mean the internal national prices on planes or on plane tickets are so high right now. I'm going to visit my sister in 2 weeks, and I got it for very cheap because I booked it when there was still a lot of restrictions. But I got an email from Southwest today, so I was curious. And to fly from Manchester to Dulles Airport, which is my airport of choice, it was $647 one way on Southwest.
Wow.
And that was like in October. So that was not a sale price. I have to maybe find a different airport. But
so are you going to be in the DMV?
I'm going to be there in 2 weeks. Yes.
Let's hang out.
Okay, we'll try. I'm helping her take care of her brand new baby.
I'm not interested. Never mind.
Since I'm not having any more. But you can fly to Iceland round trip from Boston for like $300. So, I mean, they're not that this is good. They're desperate to have people come in. And so that does benefit us now, and it will benefit them later to get some more travel money or tourist industry money back into the countries. So,
Right.
All right. Sorry. Next question.
The Senate passed a bill this week to make which of the following a federal holiday? I seem to be remembering about this. Obviously, it is Juneteenth. Because we literally just talked about it.
You know what's astonishing? That it was a unanimous vote.
Yes.
I mean, that's insane, right? I mean, because I mean, one of the interesting things about it is that, you know, Ron Paul famously voted no on everything, at least everything that involved, you know, spending money. So it's a shame that there's not somebody who would say, look, we don't need the government to make something a holiday. People can just celebrate it.
Okay, but there is also the other aspect that they've just given themselves another paid day off.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
That's really what a lot of these people were thinking that they were.
Right. Right. This is now the 8th federal holiday.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, yeah, there's probably a lot of people in the U.S. Senate going, I get another paid day off.
Yeah, I think you pull one of the other ones.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm sorry. I'm being cynical. But,
No. But I agree with you. But I honestly, you know,
Get rid of Columbus Day. Everyone
exactly.
knows
Pull Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Would have been a good trade.
Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me.
Tonight.
Is that actually? Is it still called Columbus Day?
I think it's called Indigenous
I
Peoples
was
Day.
gonna say in Nebraska we changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day or something like
Not
that.
in New Hampshire.
So the federal holiday is still Columbus Day. Many states have many states have called it in
Right.
Indigenous Peoples Day, and was it Minnesota has renamed it Leif Erikson Day.
Well, you know, it's interesting because that's the thing in New England. You know, there's a large Italian population. I'm going to guess Nebraska. There's like 8 Italian people in the and so
not very many.
Yeah, they're not going to. Nobody's there saying, you know, you have to honor Columbus. He's one of our, one of our dignitaries. So I'm not surprised that New Hampshire hasn't changed yet.
Yeah, but hey, I'm also a proponent for Leif Erikson Day.
Yeah, sure.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. The White House announced a new strategy on Tuesday to combat which of the following issues: domestic terrorism, vaccine hesitancy in underserved communities, and migrant surge at the southern border.
I know this one.
What is it?
Well, wasn't it the vice president's migrant surge or not?
I think that this one
Was
they're
that before
referring
that?
to the domestic terrorism, where they included libertarians in the.
Oh yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or a hate group.
I don't think they actually said libertarians, did they? They just
They
said people
didn't
who want
this
smaller
time.
government.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, smaller government and liberty organizations.
Yep.
Mhm.
Smaller government doesn't mean we want to actually kill the government, though.
Right.
Yes. but,
Empower
liberty-
people by depowering government.
Yep.
Yes.
Organizations fighting for smaller government or liberty organizations now can be considered domestic terrorist organizations.
Yikes.
Rich has a really good take on the federal holidays.
Yeah.
Take solace in the fact that if they're not working, they're not passing more laws.
That is a great idea.
I
Rick.
think it's a-
And
I
you
think
know
it's a
what?
great-
I might actually be okay with paying them for that.
Right. Well, right. Exactly. His next comment there. Maybe if we do that, we could have 365 federal holidays a year. And
Yeah.
you know what?
There you go. There
I
you
think
go.
that's just right, because one day every 4 years, every leap year, Congress gets to come, and anything that's really important, they can get passed.
Who was it that said no one is safe when Congress is in session or something like that? Somebody said that.
I don't know, but it's right.
A very
Somebody
smart
said that. Okay,
individual.
I'm gonna have to look at who was it? Yeah, somebody said it.
The audience will know.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. 2 organizations filed a lawsuit in attempts to block which state from ending unemployment benefits early?
This is a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
I don't think it's going to happen in Florida.
No.
So it's either Texas or Indiana.
I'm thinking it's Indiana. I don't see Texas passing this either.
Well, it just as the 2 organizations filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I mean, that could be anybody. The question is, where would you do it and think, oh, I see LNC member David Valente says it's Indiana. And
Yes.
he lives in West Virginia,
Which
which
is almost to Indiana.
right. Exactly. It's the state with the second worst dental care after Indiana. So sorry. I just put on everybody today. It's the beer.
It was
There
Mark
you go.
Twain. No man's life,
Oh,
liberty,
Mark
or property are safe when the legislature is in session.
There you go.
So true.
Like I said, very smart individual, and that was definitely Samuel L. Clemens.
All right, let's go with Indiana then.
Originally from the Nutmeg State.
And it is.
Hey!
There we
The
go.
nutmeg state is Connecticut.
Yep, that's where Sam Clemens is originally from.
And also Chris Kimball is also from Connecticut. He's a nutmegger.
So, Indiana Legal Services and the Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis filed a lawsuit to block the state of Indiana from ending unemployment benefits on June 19th, despite Congress's authorization for extra payments until early September. The report says that the attorneys are asking the judge to issue a preliminary injunction that would allow people to receive benefits while the case continues.
The concept that people can sue to force the government to give them money is just insane.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing that actually kind of strikes me is that it's Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis. Before the government gave out money indiscriminately and inappropriately, wasn't it the church that took care of the poor and the hungry? So,
yep. No, 100%. I agree with you 100%. That is, in many ways, you know, there's this interesting bit in the Communist Manifesto, which everybody should read, not practice, but read, where Marx talks about the fact that religion is the opiate of the masses. And one of the things that you have to do to establish a perfect communist society, and we can even say a perfect totalitarian society, is to eliminate religion. One of the key functions of religion is charity, taking care of each other. We have changed ourselves as a society that we no longer feel responsible to take care of each other. That we think, oh, the government's going to do that.
Right.
And that's where we've gone downhill. And that's what, if I could throw another plug, National Libertarian Day of Service. Second one will be May 1st, 2022. But that's what that's about, is us getting out there as liberty-minded people and showing we can voluntarily take care of each other. We can care for our fellow humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how many things are ensuring that we don't have community any longer.
Right.
HOA associations. You're discouraged from talking to your neighbor. You're encouraged to bring it to this board of directors to take care of the problem for you.
Yeah.
Instead of actually talking to your neighbor and going, hey, are you really painting your house lime green? I mean, yeah, come on.
Yeah. I just want to respond to David Valente that swords thrown about by watery tarts is no mean for establishing a system of government.
Next question. Democrats from Texas state legislature arrived in Washington this week in an effort to push which issue? Extend unemployment benefits, student loan forgiveness, or voting rights?
I don't think they're going to do 2 unemployment benefits questions in a row.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and I just want to establish my credentials here. I did get an 800 math on the SATs, so I love multiple choice questions. Has Texas done a voting rights bill? Are they in the process of doing that?
I think they are in the process of doing a voting rights bill. So I'm thinking voting rights is the correct answer.
Right. I think so too. And in fact, student loan forgiveness would be a weird thing for Texas, which, has this excellent state college system anyway.
Mm-hmm. And it is. It's voting rights.
The man with the 800.
Yep, there you go. Texas Democrats headed to Washington to put pressure on U.S. lawmakers to support the passage of the For the People Act in order to protect voting rights for Americans, according to CNN. This comes after Texas Democrats walked out of the State House floor to block the passage of the Senate Bill 7, a bill that would restrict voting rights a few weeks ago. So let's talk about H.R. 1 or S1 going through our nation's capital right now. And I have some major issues with this bill. Major issues. First of all, it uses the word bipartisan 46 times instead of nonpartisan.
Right.
And specifically lists Republicans and Democrats and does not list any other party. So are we saying that libertarians don't have to abide by these laws, or are we disavowing the existence of the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Constitution Party, the Socialist Party, and the People's Party? I mean, really,
Reform Party, we're going to come to blows,
right?
Yeah, Reform Party. But I mean, it's not that long ago that who was it? Was it Strom Thurmond got 70 odd electoral votes?
Dixiecrat, 1948.
Yeah. And so it's crazy.
Funny story. I was an intern.
There aren't that many funny Strom Thurmond stories, so I'm looking forward to it.
I know, right? So I was an intern at the U.S. Senate. I was working in the Hart Building for Senator Alphonse D'Amato. And I was sitting in the cafeteria. Strom Thurmond walks in. And he usually sat down if he saw anybody, any intern that was eating alone. And I was grabbing a very late lunch, so everyone had already eaten. So Strom Thurmond sat down and had lunch with me and decided to tell me his secret to long life. Now, before I share Strom Thurmond's wisdom, I am going to make a disclaimer.
All right.
This is not my idea of the secret to long life, and you have to remember that this came from Strom Thurmond, and let's remember him in a positive light because the man has passed away. So,
can you post a picture of Strom Thurmond just so everybody can really get a good sense of this here?
Everyone's going to take this clip of what you're saying and use it later,
Yes, of course. So this is Strom Thurmond.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I remember him looking like.
Right.
Okay.
That's when he was 107.
Yeah. This was 2003. This photo was taken in. Oh, of course. Now the photo.
The ads are going crazy.
Advertisements are crazy.
Yeah. That's fine. This
right,
is
so here.
We got a bunch of
So I met him in 2000. Actually, 1999 or 2000, somewhere right around there. Sat down at my table and decides to tell me the secret to life. First, every day have a beer in a brown glass bottle. Must be in a brown glass bottle.
You guys are going to live forever.
Yeah.
Second, you have to smoke a cigar once a week. And third, you have to have a different woman every month.
That doesn't sound like a recipe to long life to me.
Like,
I'm just saying.
Disaster.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think too that occasionally there's some people who are just too mean to die. And, you know, I mean, I like the fact that one of these pictures is Strom Thurmond with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're palling around. But, you know, Strom Thurmond, I think, was the second to last Klansman to serve in Congress.
Robert Byrd.
Richard Byrd, Robert Byrd.
Robert Byrd, I think, yeah. That we know of.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that was the name of the highway in my town.
Robert Byrd.
Yes.
Everything in West. Well, I don't know about Virginia, but West Virginia, everything is named Robert Byrd.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The bridge, the
this
mountain.
one I know.
Yeah.
600,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Oof.
I haven't even read the question yet.
Well,
He's a numbers guy.
I'm ready for Jeopardy, baby.
Yeah, let's go with 600,000, and you're correct. And there's not even an explanation to this one. This one's just like, yep. Go on, move on.
A bunch of people are dead. Go.
Yeah, exactly. President Joe Biden has named progressive tech critic Lena Khan as the chairwoman of what agency? Federal Election Commission, Federal Trade Commission, or Food and Drug Administration?
Tech critic?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be FTC, just because if you're a tech critic, you shouldn't be running the FDA. And the FEC is still mired at, I believe, 3 commissioners.
Yeah. Well,
fact, you know, we had this plan to get Mark Rutherford named to the FEC. In fact, I sent a letter to Donald Trump himself saying, look, you know, it says that there can only be 3 people from each party. Well, this is your chance, buddy. Stack it with libertarians. And so you'll have libertarians and Republicans on the FEC. Screw the Democrats. But, you know, he doesn't take my letters after the last incident we had. So
we've tried that same thing here in Nebraska, because all it says is that, you know, that a certain number of members can't be, you know, that the governor can't appoint people who are of his own party, you know, more than a certain number on a commission. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to get libertarians to apply, because I thought, you know, why not libertarians? Yeah. You know, then he doesn't have to appoint it, you know, go out and find some, you know, good Democrat to appoint. He can stick it to him, but so far he hasn't taken my advice. I don't know why.
Good advice. It's good advice.
I think it's very good advice.
it is.
Good advice is seldom heeded. So
that's right.
You know, right. There you go.
A prophet in her own home, you know.
Yeah.
We'll call you Cassandra.
There you go.
All right, but I still think it's FTC.
It's the FTC.
Yeah. FTC.
Yeah.
Correct.
We are crushing this.
What are we on? Oh, is that what is 9? Or no?
No, it's 10.
9.
It's 10. So which city is naming 16 parks after prominent Black Americans? New York City, Philadelphia, or Washington, D.C.?
DC doesn't even have 16 parks, do they?
Interesting. I was going to guess DC, but it is small.
Yeah, I think it's Philadelphia.
I'm guessing it's Philadelphia, too.
All right.
No, it's New York.
We were all wrong.
Yeah, we're all wrong. I mean, that is what it is.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. DC used to be called Chocolate City because of the large African-American population there. Yep. And you would think if there's a city going to rename 16 parks, it would be DC, but I like Val's point that there's probably not 16 parks in all of it.
Well, I mean, and most of the parks that do exist in DC are federal, and that wouldn't be the city renaming them. That would be Congress.
You know, that's a great point. My personal solution to the DC statehood thing is I don't think that DC should become a state. I know I'm pissing off Ethan Bishop Henchman when I say that, but I think that it should go back, and all the residential areas of DC should become part of Maryland, and the federal property should be returned to the Piscataway tribe that was displaced from there originally. And then the federal government can pay rent to the tribe for using Congress.
Oh, there you go.
Very interesting.
It's an idea. I don't know if it's a good one, but it's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not all my ideas are going to be good. I shoot for the 10% range.
This week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law banning masks in public schools, teaching critical race theory, or carrying a gun without a license.
I know this one. I'll be quiet.
Okay. Well, it's either one or two.
And I'm pretty sure it's number 2.
I think it is, because that's kind of the thing right now. Everybody's trash talking critical race theory. So
yeah.
Yep.
Hey, we didn't do too bad.
So in Nebraska, there's one candidate for governor next year. So next year is our gubernatorial election, and the Republicans are, coming out of the woodwork like, roaches or whatever. And and they are. There's one person who has said that as governor, he will ban critical race theory in the public schools and in the institution, the state higher education institutions. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second, the governor can't do that even through executive order, because constitutionally we have a state board of education and a board of, and the board of regents for the college system, and the whatever they call the other the state college system. So they're just pandering to somebody.
Like, yes, it's a shitty. Sorry, this is a wholesome show. It's a bad
time here.
But it's also not a good idea to ban topics.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are missing out on what this is. Yes, critical race theory is not like the greatest thing, but banning being able to talk about something, that's not where it shouldn't lie at the government level. It should lie in the school boards.
Well, the irony is that in Nebraska, we had people, the very same people who want to ban critical race theory were trying to claim First Amendment rights for conservatives on college campuses. It's like, okay, wait a second.
Unless if it's going against what I believe.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. I'm sure you guys remember when Indiana passed a law saying that pi was 22 divided by 7. It's one of those ridiculous statements. And when the ACLU wrote their opinion about Citizens United, they came out in favor of the Supreme Court decision. They said, the Supreme Court is right on Citizens United, that people should be able to spend money on political things. And they said, the problem is that when you restrict speech, it is that slippery slope. Instead, find a way to amplify others' speech. So find an alternate theory to CRT and say, let's offer those classes. Let's offer education and other things besides CRT, or that counters the teaching of CRT. I will tell you that, there's a lot in CRT that I think is good things that people should learn. And there's a bit of it that's, just crazy. The idea that the races are actually different. That's insane. Why would we teach that?
And you brought up Citizens United.
I did.
If a business really needs to have a political messaging arm, form a 527 as a separate organization and not allow the business to actually meddle in it. I'm sorry. Citizens United was absolutely. Businesses are not people. Businesses should not be in.
Nowhere does it say that corporations are people. That's specific.
No. But I'm comparing that. Yeah.
Right. But what it does say is that people don't lose their individual rights just because they form a group like a corporation or a union. And if they choose to voluntarily say, in this assignment, we're going to make political speech, that's my take on it.
And that's how the Supreme Court has walked through it, and I agree with the original intent or the original idea. The reality of evolution over time has been drastically different.
Yeah, although it's one of those things that if you think about it, all campaign finance law is incredibly stupid.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about this right now, and so I have an idea for millionaires out there who are currently constrained that they can only give $35,500 to the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is having a birthday, the 50th birthday, August 27th and 28th, and sponsorship at the highest level is $10,000. So if I wanted to give $1 million to the Libertarian Party, I would spin up a bunch of nonprofits and buy them each a $10,000 ticket to the thing. And I'm saying if anybody wants to sponsor us, People for Liberty, going to the birthday party, we'd be happy to accept that.
There you go. I love it. I love it. People for Liberty.
Yep. That's what we are.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, that brings us to the end of the quiz. What else do we have going on for the next week? I know this weekend I'm going to be in North Carolina, my home convention.
Nice.
State convention number 12 for me.
Wow.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I am so exhausted. I'm surprised as a newlywed. We got married back in March, and I've been to 12 state conventions, and I'm still married.
I was say you haven't filed.
There's
not a
the real
divorce
magic
filing yet,
right there. Because wow.
Was your state?
I showed up to the. Oh, sorry.
No, you please, Val. You go.
I showed up to the national convention with a less than 3-week-old baby. So it's a partnership, it's not.
It is.
Right. Although I have to tell my story about that now. So it's 2016, right? I've never met Val before, and I don't really know Nick that well. Like I met him in 2014, but I don't really know him that well. And I thought Val was like a hired, look good on Nick's arm sort of person, stuff like that. And I'm like, this really changed my opinion. And then I saw her with all the kids. I'm like, oh, no. There's no amount of money that anybody gets paid for to do that.
He didn't have enough money to get somebody better looking.
Come on. I'm going to try. I may try to make your convention. I heard you guys are missing a speaker. I'm going to try to jump in there and see if I can talk to that. I talked to Susan about it. And so awesome. Maybe I'll see you, Eric, and that would be exciting.
That would be great. I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, because I stiffed you on that pizza. So.
Hey, with everything that was going on, it was difficult.
It was crazy, and that's I guess if we're coming to sort of the thing about it, this has been so much fun, right? I love getting on the air with you guys. I love hanging out with libertarians, and I love everything about us because we're all about freedom, right? Mm-hmm. I was talking. Joe Jorgensen, who's now the president of People for Liberty, teaches a class at Clemson about autonomy. Autonomy is happiness. And, it's clear that you can show it in animals, you can show it in people. When you're in control of your own life, you're happy. Happiness is the political result of libertarianism. That's what we want to happen. And there's nothing better than bringing joy to people. And we need to find a way to celebrate that we are about bringing that joy to people together. Yes. And, I'm always happy to be around other libertarians. It's the best feeling.
Same here.
This was incredibly fun. Thanks for joining us at the last minute, Dan, because we were kind of nervous.
Pleasure. I'm always available.
All right.
I'm always willing to suggest beer.
So everyone, thank you so much for being with us this week. Next week, we are not going to be broadcasting. And then the week after that, I'm going to have to find a replacement for me. I'm going to see if I'm going to be getting David Valente to maybe host the show and have some fun there because I'm going to be in Key West, Florida. So I'm going to be taking a vacation and burying my phone in the sand. So
And that's an awesome place to go. Valente's a great choice. People who aren't watching his show, The Political Deep Dive on LPTV, Sunday nights, that's a great show. Really thoughtful.
Yes. No, it's awesome, and I'm glad that it's on LPTV now. We have a great lineup, and we've got even more shows coming out. So watch your LP news, because the your television guide is going to be right there for LPTV.
Nice.
Awesome.
But have a great night, everyone, and see you soon.
Happy birthday, Jared.
Happy birthday.